Life. What is real anymore? It's time to pull back the curtains of reality and explore life in the hologram. We've unlocked our library hidden deep within the matrix and are ready to take you on a tour of the cosmos. Come in as we discuss everything from spirituality, psychics, healers, ghosts, as well as UFOs, and the unknown. It's time to forget what you think you know and explore life in the hologram.
That happened so abruptly. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a good something somewhere in the universe as we speak. And welcome to Life in the Hologram on Revolution Radio with the magnificent Caroline Bell Tumblety and Madeline Rudy. And here I have a little card today, and it's fluorite. And I'll even show you because we're on a camera. Ooh, and you reappear and disappear. I am smart. I am open to learning something new. I'm organized. Clear thinking. Released mind chatter. Maintain courage and self-confidence. Recognize your own intelligence. Ease with problem solving.
Nice card.
Yeah. What's going on in Scotland these days?
Well, you know, we had some nice sunny days. I don't know. There was a kind of haziness in the air, as if there was fire somewhere. I don't know. Like, I think Iceland has got a little eruption going on. So that could be causing I don't know. Who knows? How about you, Madeline? How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, it was nice for 2 days here, too. And it's like spring.
Yeah.
I mean, the flowers are starting to bloom, and It's like, it's March.
No. But I think the seasons have shifted. They're earlier.
Somebody did something.
Yes.
I don't know what they did, but somebody did something.
And we have the most awesome guest, don't we?
Yes, we do.
have Zoe Greystone, Miss Bii. And I'm going to read off Zoe's bio here. And there's been some updates on this bio, just as I'm glancing at it. So we have Zoe Greystone, Miss Bii, is a creator, a published artist, a manifestor. She is an anomaly. Can I say that word? And full of boundless energy. Perhaps this is why she attracts so many entities into her existence. Zoe has worked with all kinds of people in her life, growing up in the theatre and around the opera. She is the daughter of an empath and of an artist. On all sides of her family tree, she has creators and musicians, artists, authors, and magic. Coming from a predominantly Celtic bloodline, Zoe is able to heal, see auras, and communicate with ET and supernatural beings. Originally from Boulder, Colorado, she has lived in Las Vegas, Nevada, Eugene, Oregon, Austin, Texas, where her spiritual journey has granted her countless experiences that she has been granted the ability and the desire to share. She is currently somewhere near Des Moines, double-checking that the world is, in fact, as wild as it seems. So I'd like to welcome Zoe, and Zoe has a show here on Revolution Radio as well. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome.
Oh, hello. Thank you. That was great. Yes, Des Moines.
Des Moines.
I said that same thing too, Caroline, when we were traveling across country doing the magical, it was the quantum vortex experience. I said, look, we're coming to Des Moines.
Des Moines, hey, that's how it reads.
Right. And Dr. Valerie looked at me and she says, that's Des Moines. Oh, I said I thought it was Desmonies.
I would call it Desmoenus.
Desmoenus. There's a couple of them. There's a couple of states that I don't get it right, you know. But people seem to know what I'm saying.
So tell us all about yourself, Zoe.
Yeah, it's for Des Moines, it's kind of like having a last name nobody can pronounce. You just get used to people saying weird stuff, and you're like, "Yep, that's me. That's me. That's my name." And it's kind of funny because even people up here will look at you if you don't say Des Moines like a certain way, they get really flustered, and it's kind of like being from Colorado, people always say Colorado, and I say Colorado, and that's how you know I'm from Colorado, because it's radtacular. And I always thought it was, I don't know what I thought, but I learned it's a native word. And so I was like, oh, I've just been pronouncing my home for the last 20 years, like, wrong. And so, it happens with a lot of states around here. Like, we have a lot of states we don't say right. So that's okay. But yeah, I've just been doing the radio show for the last a month now already. I had my 5th show yesterday.
It's so fantastic. Yeah.
It's a little intimidating, but it's very exciting.
Tell us how you got here, though. I mean, you have a background in all kinds of things.
Oh my gosh, yes. So it's because of Solaris, firstly, and Caroline and Bill Grant and Crypt Rick for encouraging me so much. I was on Solaris's shows for a while because I met her through a UFO MK Ultra abductee group. That was like a support group for people who didn't really understand what was happening to them, but they understood that something strange was going on. And I learned that I was through my family lineage, there's a lot of like MK Ultra programming, and I happen to be someone who broke a couple of cycles, but for whatever reason, which I still don't entirely understand like the full plan of it, but ever since I was a kid, I've had some different abilities and knowledge about things, and I've been abducted, and I've seen some stuff about the state of the world that we're kind of in now. And for the last 15 years, I've been sharing the stuff that was shared with me back when I was a kid. I've been talking about, the state of, the missing children in the world and the way that the government in the United States is going, the politics here. I've been talking about a lot of the human trafficking and just seeing some different war crimes that have been committed places that I predicted a long time ago. And during 2020, people said that I was a QAnon person, which I still don't quite understand, but I guess there's a group of people that say very similar things, and they're very radicalized. And I'm over here no, these are just based on personal experiences, friends. I got abducted by aliens this one time when I saw the end of the world, so I'm just trying to tell you, I saw some crazy stuff that cannot be unseen, and my therapist doesn't know what to do with me. So maybe there's other people in the world that want to know these things, just in case it's not crazy people talk. And now it's been, 20 years, and people are kind of like, oh, hey, remember all that stuff you've been talking about? Well, it's kind of relevant now. Sorry, I thought you were cuckoo bananas. And so I've been sharing a lot of that stuff with Solaris on her show and talking about some of the different abilities and stuff and some of the implants and the effects of extremely low frequency beams that get used to control people and sort of make you incapable of doing certain things. And actually my co-host and I met during an abduction. We met on a spaceship, and we became friends in person a couple years later. And we had a lot of stuff that happened to us when we started becoming friends, because whatever entities were involved didn't want us mixing our knowledge and our know-how, I guess, and they tried to separate us for a long time. And we've since broken free of some of those control tactics, and we've been able to carry on and move forward and stuff. And so I've been doing radio shows now with Solaris mostly for the last 3.5 years, and she's been convincing me to get into radio myself. She says I have a really good knack for it, and I can talk about just about anything forever. So it's good to have like a lot of time to be able to share stuff. And I collect people. That's like a hobby. I collect people and experiences, and I like to share those with everyone. And so it's kind of cool to have a radio show that's basically centered around the fact that I'm kind of a chaotic collector of things and people, but like experiences, knowledge, trivia. I just like to know things. I like to share information. And learning how to do that on the radio has been really fun because I get to share all the things that I like sharing with people on the radio, which means I get to share it with more people. And the more people that I get to share with, the more I feel like it helps kind of a collective, almost like a collective, like holding hands in support of each other. I feel like it kind of helps let people know they're not alone. Mm-hmm. And that maybe there are more people like myself that are kind of in between, like, I know I'm not alone, but I haven't really met anybody that gets it. And I don't hear a lot of people talking about the things that I go through. And so like, maybe I am alone. And I'm hoping that my show can help bridge that gap for people where it's like, no, you're not alone. Just cross this bridge, go left. And people who have gone through this stuff, they're over there. And if you go through the park a little bit, the tent with the red stripes, that's the circus. You can go in there and everyone knows exactly what you're talking about. It's just a little bit crazy in there. Like,
So when were you abducted?
The first time was when I was a small kid. I think I was like 6 or 7. I actually was abducted just a week ago. I woke up with my clothes inside out backwards, and my bed was like shifted in my room, and there was a bunch of stuff just like randomly moved in my bedroom. And I remember waking up and just being like, oh, okay, like you could have left a note or something, like at least made me breakfast, shoot. But it doesn't happen as often anymore. But the first time it happened, I was like 5 or 6, I think. And it would happen every few months when I was a kid. And I thought they were just imaginary friends. People used to tell me I just have a wild imagination. And so people would ignore me when I would say that, like, I'm seeing fairies and gnomes and there's aliens outside. And like, I was describing just like monsters constantly, and people are like yelling at my dad, stop watching all these Godzilla movies. You're giving her a hard time. Like, don't watch any of these scary sci-fi movies. You're putting ideas in her head. And it's like, well, no. I mean, looking at the sci-fi movies, I can kind of relay what I'm trying to experience, or I can try to relay what I'm experiencing to like a movie or something. But people, when I was a kid, it didn't make a lot of sense. As an adult, TV and media is so saturated that people call me and say, I watched X TV show and this thing happened to this character. Is that something that you spoke about in this experience you shared however long ago? And it's like, yes, that is a great visual storytelling for what I went through. And people are like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, yep, that's okay.
What happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Caroline,
the first time when I was like 6, I remember waking up to this little gray man in my room, and I, for some reason, thought it was a smart idea to follow a strange person being into a wall, and I ended up on a spaceship, and they were showing me kind of, like a perspective of the Earth that seemed very strange, and there was all this fire. And when I was like 6, I didn't really understand, but I knew something terrible was happening. And when I came back, I was having nightmares about volcanoes erupting and blowing up and massive amounts of tornadoes. And I was having dreams about like big fires and fires in certain parts of the country, certain parts of the world, and like just how much damage they were doing. And I was having just a lot of these like environmental nightmares for years. And it wasn't until I met Solaris through Misha Johnston, actually, where I did a past life regression with Misha, and we went through some like past memories. And I remembered more about that abduction where it was kind of blocked out before because it was so anxiety inducing. But the Greys had abducted me and were trying to explain that I'm part of a generation that has to stand up and save the environment and work on like reconnecting people to the Earth, because if we don't, we are surely going to burn up and cease to exist. And as a child, that was a heavy weight to carry. And it's always been in the back of my mind that I wanted to do better and do right by the environment. My grandma was kind of a hippie on my dad's side. And so as an adult, I've kind of turned into her a lot. I do a lot of things now that she wanted me to do when I was younger, like eat more vegetables, be less on like certain animal products. She, don't eat processed food, don't eat like weird sauces, like don't put certain like oils and stuff in your food, like just things like that. She always had a fairly healthy diet, and she was always cooking homemade meals. She didn't like it when we would go out or order pizza or anything. She would say, well, we can just make a boboli pizza, or we can just make our pizza dough at home, or, don't go to Subway, we can make sandwiches at home. And it was always make stuff at home. And it's not until very recently that really hit home for me, where it was like, yeah, no, I prefer to make my own food, because at least I know what I'm making for the most part is as healthy as it can be, whereas other places, everything is just coated in sugar. I was deep diving with a friend recently about nutrition, and I started remembering stuff from abductions where the ETs were talking about diets, and you can't ascend to certain levels if you have an unhealthy diet, because the chemicals and all that stuff, it bogs down, like we were saying earlier. Like if you have an unhealthy gut, it affects your mind, and if your mind is affected, you can't quite receive messages or communicate as thoroughly. And so for me, being kind of a stubborn rebel, it was like, oh, I'm gonna eat all this garbage so you can't bug me and scare me anymore. Ha ha ha, joke's on you. I'm just gonna eat pizza rolls for the rest of my life, and you can't get me. But it turns out that they absolutely will still get you if they need something. So what your diet is, they'll show up. But the unhealthier diet I had, actually, the more terrifying the experience of recognizing these beings was, which was kind of strange to me. And the more I eat like healthier food, the less intimidating it is, the more it feels like this, like a conversation. It's like, okay, well, I'm unsettled that this being from the 8th dimension has manifested in front of me, and, be not afraid. Like, sir, this is the scariest moment of my life. Like, those kinds of experiences still happen, but they don't leave me like shaking in the corner and like rocking back and forth, like crying anymore, because it's not as unsettling now as it was when I was a kid. Because people used to say, oh, aliens aren't real, they're not real, monsters aren't real. You're not actually seeing shadow people. That's just in your head. You must be schizophrenic. And as it turns out, like, no. In fact, lots of people see shadow people, and lots of people see fairies, and lots of people interact with other beings in the forests behind their homes. And it's actually way more normal now to talk to somebody about you think Bigfoot is real. It's like a normal people conversation, whereas before it was like, oh, you're insane if you think Bigfoot is real. You're crazy if you think you've seen a spaceship. Like, wow. It's been an interesting journey, to say the least, because now it's like cool. Everyone's like, oh, you talk to aliens? Ooh, neat. And it's like, yeah, but for the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, people have been like, you're insane, and you should probably see a psychiatrist. Like, you should probably be medicated because you're saying crazy stuff. Like, I met God one time and my brain melted.
She should have been back with us 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, gosh.
If you think they're telling you you're insane now.
Yeah, right. So I got a question for you, Zoe.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Greys. So who are the Greys?
From my perspective, I thought they were just little people. I thought they were just little gray people that were trying to do right by humans. Through other research over the years, I've been told they're clones because they don't really reproduce. I don't really know who they are. I know that they are sort of like a subtext of Alien. They're kind of like the cats, if cats could like talk and interact more scientifically with themselves, but they're kind of like the cats to a higher being, which I just call them the tall grays. I know there is a species of ET that folks talk about called the tall grays, but these ones, I don't know if they're the same beings, but they're just very tall and they're very linky, and they have like 7 fingers, and they look very humanoid to one degree, but there's also something just like really unsettling and uncanny about them. Mm-hmm. And they don't often have hair. I can't say that they're bald, but they don't have hair like we do, or like I would describe like a Nordic ET. but they have like a, I don't know, almost like a fur. I feel bad making faces thinking about it, but they're genuinely the most unsettling creatures I've ever met. They seemed kind. They didn't seem malicious, but they were unsettling to be around. Like, they just made me so afraid. They reminded me of the beings that I used to think were called angels when I was a kid. And to this day, I don't know that they are or are not angels, but they are unsettling to look at. They are such a higher frequency of being that it's just, I don't know, it's biblically intimidating to encounter them, that's for sure. They've shared like very interesting positive messages with me about like taking care of yourself, like loving yourself so you can love the world around you. And I think that's really wholesome, but like the fear that they instilled is very contradictory to the kind words that I had from them. But they use the little grays to kind of do the intermediate like physical work, because you never see the tall ones like in a physical setting. It's always in an abduction or in a spiritual encounter. And I don't really know why that is. I don't know if I've ever asked them. There are a lot of interactions that I've had where I remember visuals of it, but I could not possibly tell you what like some of the conversations were. There's a lot of things I remember out of context. A lot of it's really blurry, but oftentimes when I would have these experiences, these abductions, I would be either tested on certain skills, or I would be put in like a classroom setting and tested like a rat in a maze, where they would put like a goal for you to get to, and you would have to decipher if the people that you're encountering are like clones or if they are your people, and like how quickly and how you determine who your people are and who you trust was like a big thing that they focused on. And so I'm the kind of person where I make jokes about it because like that's just kind of my humor and that's kind of the generation I grew up in. But like I make jokes about having like a touch of the tisms, because there's just things I do that in certain situations a normal person would stop and be like, why is your coat brown? You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of this TV show I used to watch called Firefly, and they had the brown coats. Like, nobody stops in a moment of terror to say, like, this reminds me of a TV show I watched when I was 16, where, you know what I mean? And there was just moments where I would do stuff and these beings would be so taken aback because they'd be like, what do you say? Like, what is happening right now? And I would throw everybody off their cue, and then I would start laughing because everything seems really preposterous. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, in some abductions, it just seems so unreal. It feels like a dream. And so I try to lucid dream where you take control, but then like when you can't take control, you're just kind of uncomfortable. And when I'm uncomfortable, I make really weird jokes and I laugh, and if I'm uncomfortable, I make whatever around me I make it as uncomfortable as it can too, to kind of like disrupt their patterns, because they use frequencies to control you. And so laughing breaks those frequencies a lot, because laughter is sort of a neutral frequency, because you laugh when you're angry, you can laugh when you're crying, you laugh when you're happy. Like, people just laugh at weird things. And so laughing, I've noticed, is kind of like this, it's a consistent neutral wave, and it neutralizes bad energy especially. But like, even if you're having a really good time, if someone just lets off like a really deep, a guffaw, the whole room is going to freeze and be like, what just happened? And so I was combating a lot of my experiences with laughter, which would confuse them. And then it would leave me in situations where they would change the rules thinking that I knew something. And it was like, no, I'm just being facetious. Like, I'm just being,
what were they trying?
A brat,
what were they trying to learn from you? Or
I think they're trying to learn how to read human behavior, actually. I think because humans react so differently to certain situations. I think some of them were trying to genuinely test us to see how prepared we are as a group of beings for them to like show up and manifest, because some people in my experiences in my abductions would be having absolute mental breakdowns. They would realize where they were and what was happening, and it would scare them, like, genuinely. And some people would just disappear. They would be like taken away and then you wouldn't see them again. And I've met some people in real life in random parts of the country that were in certain abductions. And it's really weird when you recognize each other because you were abducted by aliens. And then you're talking about like, you know, you're talking about the weird experiments that they put you through and the weird like obstacle course they put you through while you're trying to get like coffee at the grocery store. And it's a strange experience. And from what I can tell, it really just felt like they were trying to see how people would respond in certain situations. Like if the world was ending for like a volcano attack, or maybe there's a giant sinkhole that opens up and swallows an entire city. I think they're trying to genuinely gauge like what tragedy we are going to respond to that they can sort of kickstart whatever they're doing. I don't know. Some of them feel like they're trying to take something from us, but some of them feel like they're trying to teach us, like, you know, technological advances or emotional advances. But overall, it just seems like all my experiences, I feel like I'm taking a bunch of like Rorschach tests. And so it feels very psychological to me. I don't know about other people's experiences. There was one experience that I mentioned sometimes, but I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. But I was abducted when I was like 18. No. Yeah, when I was like 18, and they told me that I would eventually have a child, but it wouldn't be mine. And ever since I was a kid, I knew I wouldn't have children. I just didn't feel that calling. I felt like I would be motherly to necessarily be a mother to a child. And I just remember being horrified my whole life that someone was going to take my child away because it wasn't going to be a real person. And there was a episode of X-Files like that when I was like 4 that had me all tripped out. And then as I got older, it really felt like that was something that was going to happen. So when this experience happened when I was like 18 or 19, I kept thinking about it a lot. And then when I was like 23, I was living with my Russian boyfriend at the time. And I talk about a lot of stories with him because that's where a lot of my like adult abductions happened, where they were more frequent, more terrifying, more intense. We used to joke about him being a handler because there were just weird situations that would happen around him that were very government feeling, like very suspicious, kind of like, is the government involved? Like, do I have a personal FBI agent? But I was abducted once while I was dating him, and I had a replay in my brain of the moment when I was abducted when I was 18, where they were like, you're going to have a child, but it's not going to be yours. And when I was abducted dating my boyfriend at that time, they vivisected me and were like checking my organs. And then they took a baby out of me. And I remember saying like, hey, that's mine. Like I was growing that just fine in my body all by myself. You give that back. And, you know, in my brain, it made sense to make a joke. But in that moment, they were like upset and they were like, no, this is ours. Like, this isn't yours. Like, this is ours. We're taking this back. But something happened. And when they were taking the I don't know, I always want to call it like the egg because it feels like, I don't know. It feels like the movie Alien. Like, I feel like there's a little alien. They took like a small fetus out of me, which was really scary because I was dating somebody and then I could have been pregnant for real and not known it. And then they're just taking it away. And it's like, you know, there's just a lot of these logical questions going through my head. But there was a female voice in my head that was like speaking to me, but also speaking about me, who said something to the degree of, they've gone too far this time. We have to take it now or they're both going to die. And at that moment, I had this like flashback of like being almost separated, like ripped apart from my body. And I had this like whole sort of backsplash experience of the abduction. It was kind of in reverse because like I remember when it first started, I had gone into my bathroom and I sensed something was amiss. And then all these like weird feelings started to hit me and I felt like I was hit with like a donut. Like, it was some kind of an electric frequency and it just surrounded me like those, you know, those kids' toys that are like the donuts that stack in colors and different sizes. Oh, yeah. It was like that, but like it was surrounding me. Like it was just this energy that was like those donuts. And I was like, something's wrong. I got to get back to my boyfriend. And I went running back to our bedroom and I was trying to wake him up. And then he just wasn't himself. And I was convinced that he was like a replacement, and maybe I wasn't really in my bedroom. And then at one point I felt like half my body felt like it was given an epidural, and then the other half of my body was like physically fighting in my physical space, like to get my body back. And then all of a sudden I sort of like was ripped out of my own body and zooted through space. And I woke up on an operating table with that woman's voice in my head. And then I sort of like experienced it all again, like a second and third time, sort of like processing it. And when I woke up the next morning, I had lost like 10 pounds. And I felt like I'd been gone for months. I felt like it was a weird recovery and I'd been on vacation or something. And it was right as my boyfriend was walking out the door for work. And he said that I had said some crazy stuff in my sleep, but he didn't think much of it. But then he was asking me, like, why are you holding your stomach a certain way? Like, why are you walking this way? Like, are you okay? Did something happen? Like, do you need to take a pregnancy test? And I was like, oh, no, the aliens took it. It's fine. And he was like, I'm sorry, what? And then I realized what I said, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think I was abducted by aliens, and I think they took it. And he was like, I don't really know what to do with this information. Like, are you sure it wasn't just like a really weird dream that you had? And to this day, we both are just kind of like, yeah, that's a thing that happened. Like we don't have any explanation for it. Like, he just took my word on it. And he was like, okay. And he didn't say that he didn't believe me. He didn't say that I was crazy. He was just like, you can't talk about this. Like, you know that, right? Like, you can't tell people this. And I was like, why? And he was like, well, I'm Russian, and also the FBI. I don't know. Maybe don't talk about aliens because we're going to get in trouble. And I just remember, you know, every time I had an experience, there was these like reptilians in our house, in our apartment, I should say, not house. I'm not that fortunate yet. But in our apartment, we had reptilians that were walking in and out. And I swear to God, one time there was like a being that looked just like Godzilla, but it was only like, 6.5 feet tall. But it was just like standing in our doorway, like glowering at me. And I started crying, and my boyfriend asked me what was going on. And he sensed something in the doorway, but he couldn't see it. Whereas I could see it and feel its presence, and it was incredibly intimidating. My cats were freaked out. Like, everybody was in the bedroom looking at the doorway, just kind of absolutely terrified, because nobody knew what to do. Like, you knew something was there, but you couldn't see it. You couldn't really perceive it being there. And a lot of my experiences are like that, where it's like, I can see it with my real eyeballs. I can see it with my third eye. I can feel it in my heart. And sometimes I just don't know how to react. So I just start laughing, or I make a weird joke, or I say something uncomfortable, or, if I feel like it's not a threat, I'll offer it tea. I say it just in general, like, it could be a ghost, it could be E.T., it could be a fairy. If I sense something, I usually offer tea as like a peace offering. But a lot of the times I just make a weird comment that's just like, no, we're not doing that today. Like, I'm not in the mood to deal with any spookies right now. Like, I don't know who you are, how you got in the house, but I need you to turn around and GDFO, because I don't have I have to go to work. I don't have time for aliens right now. Like, I could be crazy, but like, you can wait here till after work if you want, I guess, but I'm leaving. And if you do anything, there will be witnesses. Like, you can't.
Do they go away?
But sometimes they just stay and they don't move. It feels like they just become statues sometimes. Like, I hadn't had any experiences for a couple of years that were like ET specific. I have a lot of supernatural experiences. I've seen a lot of ghostly entities. Caroline, I've talked about him a little bit from when I was in Texas. I was in this really ridiculously haunted place, and there was just all kinds of crazy stuff happening all the time in the house. But with the ET stuff, I haven't had anything for a few years, which was really nice. It was peaceful. I slept a lot more than I normally would. But when I got to Iowa, I had a show with her where I recognized that there were some sentries posted outside our house. And I would see beings that were in like these black military suits that were like stalking around our house. And I was like, I hope they're here for protecting me and not so much like protecting against me. And sometimes I get glimpses of them just like in my hallway in the dark, because we have a really long hallway, and I just get these glimpses, these outlines of just like sentries just standing by the doorways, and it's a little intimidating sometimes. It genuinely my heart will start beating really fast. And my mom has been hearing stuff recently too and interacting with them. They knock on her door and they try to talk to her sometimes, and she can hear them talking outside her room. And my mom's not someone who's had a whole lot of experiences. And since we've been here in this particular house, she says she's been hearing men and women's voices outside her room. And a lot of it is times where I'm out here in the living room and I don't hear anything. And she's like, well, I know I'm kind of sleepy, but like I'm hearing people like knocking on the doors, and I'm like spooked because I feel like somebody's there, and so I'm like sitting here going, welcome to my world, like like now you know what it's like. But at the same time, it's like, no, that's really intimidating though. That's really, a lot of people are not prepared to have entities just vibing outside their door while they're trying to sleep, or while they're home alone or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about you?
Madeline?
Me?
Yeah,
Well,
do you have any ET experiences?
A few. When I was up in, I always forget whether it was New Hampshire. I think it was like New Hampshire or one of the states up in England, Groton, where they have the military base for submarines. My son met a girl up there and he got married, and we went up for the wedding. And while he and I slept in the same room, and I'm covering him with a white light and covering me with a white light, and I went to sleep. And the next thing you know, because I used to get in a lot of paralyzing sleeps. And
those are the worst.
These two guys have me, and I'm sitting in a chair, and they're the tall whites. And they're asking me these questions, and I'm like, in the name of Jesus Christ, rebuke Satan out of my life. Although I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Hail Mary, full of grace. I don't know what the hell they were asking me, but after a while, they looked at each other and they said, we're not going to get any information out of her. We're going to have to leave her go. And I felt this like push on my shoulder. And the next thing you know, I was back in my bed, and it's like, oh my God, what the hell just happened? Let me get up and see if I'm still alive. Maybe I died. And the next day when I came out and my friend looked at me, she said, what happened to you? You're as white as a ghost. I said, you have no idea what happened to me. And then I was telling her.
Wouldn't you like to know?
And she says, oh my God, that sounds like the book Alien.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to figure out that these were the tall whites, because this was back in the 80s.
What did they look like?
Tall and white.
Yeah.
They were like all white. Their hair was white. Their faces were white. Their outfit was white. Everything was white. It looked like they had like a crew cut hairdo.
Interesting.
What was their eyes like?
Their eyes, I don't even know. Maybe black, like black eyes. But it was like, oh. And then when I moved into my house in ultra suburbia, I lived in the woods. I was looking out the window the one night, and I'm looking at this what I thought was an airplane. And then the next thing you know, it spins around. I said, oh, that's interesting. Well, there's a red light and an amber light and a green light, and then it comes towards me. I said, oh, that's interesting. And now I'm thinking, yeah, if that was an airplane, I think it would have flew away by now. It would be hanging out there. And then I was, don't I have like some binoculars around this place or something so I could see what it was? And then I finally got tired of looking at it, and so I said, I'm going to bed. And then I was, one of the men that I knew that I took a hypnosis class with, he had a gal that wanted to quit smoking. So he brought her over, and I put her into hypnosis, and she starts saying, oh, do you know you have these 3 little beings around you? I'm like, what? I said, look, you're supposed to stop smoking. What are you telling me about people around me? And then she said, yeah, these three beings are with you all the time. I said, really? So she went on and on and on about that. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
Wow.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, not about the tall whites. Like, they're very invasive for being a gentle race. They're very,
but
I
never
they pick you up and they
understood.
just...
Yeah, I never understood. It's like, well, what did they want from me? What information do I have? And then when I lived in Sedona, I went down into Cottonwood to this, what the heck do they call these people? What's that ship Sananda's on?
Oh, the Ashtar Command.
Right. Well, these were like the Ashtar Command. They had meditations and this and that. And me and my friend, she was from Cece. She was from India. And her and I went down there, and then we did this meditation, and we drank the crystal water, and you know. And then we went home, and then I had this dream that I was on this spaceship. And I'm looking at these ladies, and I'm there, what am I doing here? And then it's like, here's Cece. I said, where the heck are we? And we were on this spaceship.
Where was it going?
Beats me. Beats me.
Yeah, I never know where the ships are going. Just that I've been on a few, and I've seen some pretty, like, space landscape, but it's also very dark and cold. Like, space is much more empty than people think it is. And I'm assuming the feelings I have of traveling at what I would consider light speed, or at least faster than anything else I've experienced, like, you either feel like you're being stretched like a rubber band into oblivion, or it's like they snap their fingers and you're just suddenly somewhere else, like you teleport, like you don't process, like, getting places.
I think that's
And
how they move those ships. It's by mind power.
Sense.
It's not by...
it kind of...
And I had these guys from NASA. When I lived in Sedona, I worked at a small hotel there, and a lot of these guys from NASA came in, and they were going up to the Lowell Observatory. And they come down for breakfast. I said, oh, what are you doing here? And they said, oh, we're working on stuff to get to outer space. I said, oh, really? I said, well, if you need a candidate, I'll go. And he says, well, we're not using like a rocket ship. I said, oh. So, I mean, I think he was saying that they're kind of using their mind power.
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes a lot of sense, because oftentimes they tell you to think of where you're going, visualize it, and then you just sort of become there. Like, it makes sense. It's kind of why I think meditation is something that if you're not prepared for it, or you're not mentally grounded, it's very easy to be lost places in meditation, because you can literally just astral project anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some people are probably more aware of it or more capable of it than they think they are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, consciously, like subconsciously, they're a little bit more like apt to it.
I know. I went to sleep the one night, and I laid down in my bed and just closed my eyes, and the next thing you know, I was standing in New York City, and I'm like, how'd I get here? And best of all, what am I doing here?
Right? That's usually the first question I ask, is like, how, what?
Yeah,
how did I get here? Yeah.
So it's these things. I have a lot of stuff that happens in my dream state.
Same.
So
what freaks me out is when it doesn't happen in your dream state, and you're like a fully sober, awake, conscious person, and things happen, and then you're like, well, there's no excuse for this. I got nothing. Like, that happened.
What about you, Caroline?
Yeah. What about me? I feel, well, I have my own, like, opinion about what I have experienced. Like, I'm not convinced they're aliens. That's where I'm at. They're definitely interdimensional. They're light beings. They're, like, are the aliens. Like, I think I've had a hard time always, like, referring to, yeah, it's just, I don't know why that is, but, I've also seen things that I have been able to dissolve, like, instantly. So that has also made me question, is this somebody else's projection? Like, knowing the way that mirrors, what is it, the magic mirror, that was before the projector. Like, yeah, I have my own take on it. And I've seen, like, I remember one grey, and I'm also either mind that I was terrified when I was younger, like really terrified by interdimensional beings until I stopped being terrified. You know, I just stopped, like, just kind of, it was one night I had this, and again, it's the sleep paralysis, you know, you're lying there, you can't move. And I could feel something breathing on me. And it was breathing so heavy, my hair was like blowing in the wind.
Oh my gosh.
And I could feel
spooky.
like, and I couldn't move. Like, I had sleep paralysis, and I could hear it. I could actually feel like something dripping like onto me. And I lay there and I was like, you know what? I was terrified. My wee heart was beating. And I had enough. I've had enough. I've really had enough. And I was like, I used all my strength and I moved myself and I grabbed it and it was gone.
Oh, wow.
It was gone. And I felt so freaking powerful. Like, and it stayed with me, like, for about, I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year. I was just like, yes. You know, yeah, come on.
Right? You want to fight? You want to fight?
Yeah, so I kind of started to fight back, is what happened. And I had an experience actually just a few years ago, and it was what I remember as my first grey. And I was sitting down to meditate, and I just closed my eyes, and I saw it. It was at my living room window, and it was almost like it was trapped or something, like it couldn't get out. I don't know, like that's kind of me filling in the blanks. But when I shut my eyes, it turned and made a run for me. And I'm sitting cross-legged. It's coming right at me, so I just stick my hand out and grab it by the throat. Like, this is all in my mind. I
love that.
Needless to say, did not end well for the little grey. No, it did not.
Yeah.
And it felt it felt really kind of weak. It felt weak. Like, as if it didn't have it. And my thing was, it had no right to be there. You need to ask for permission. Like, I've kind of put that out. Like, you need to ask for permission. And it also, was it using me as a portal? Was it going to run right through me? It didn't. Because, so yeah, I've had a few. I've had, like, the big, like, kind of, to me, they look kind of dragony, but they're not as cool as dragon. Big. Yeah. There was one I saw, and it was weird. Again, these are visions. They're no, like, I'm a conscious. Like, I'm aware of what I'm seeing. And when I saw this one, I was having none of it, and I dissolved him. He just dissolved right in front of me. So, wow. I have my own kind of feel that I kind of believe what Scooby-Doo taught us. That is, the monsters are usually human.
Yeah. Sorry, my cat wanted some attention, so she's going to come say hi.
Hello.
That looks like Marissa's cat.
Yeah. Which one is this?
This is Gigi.
Gigi.
This is Gigi. She's the one that she's always talking in the background. You can hear her singing songs and talking to her imaginary friends, which definitely spooks me out a little bit. But Yeah, she just really needed some attention today. She's been very needy lately. So
Marissa has a cat like that, Weasley.
Weasley. Aw. Is it because he's a ginger?
I don't know why they named it. I think the kids named him Weasley.
That's a good
Are
name.
they Harry Potter fans?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mother is.
Well, she's right at that age group, right? Like, so is Zoe, yeah.
I think she's as old as Zoe.
Yeah. Willow's the same, my daughter.
I just turned 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to get a rat, and I wanted to get the rat and name it Sirius instead of the dog, because it's kind of like, because Sirius was the one that attacks the rat. And I just thought it'd be funny, because, was it Pettigrew or Peter, or I don't know what Ron named his Scabbers. He named the rat Scabbers, but that feels gross to me. Yeah, and so I was like, I would probably just name it Sirius. It still has the S, but it's, the guy that attacked him instead, because of the irony behind Peter Pettigrew being the bad guy. Because, like, rats are inherently super sweet. Like, Dumbo rats are so sweet. I love them.
How many cats do you have?
I have 3. So I have Gigi and her twin sister Momo, and they're litter mates, but they're twins to me. They came from the same mom, and they were born like a minute apart, and they're connected by the tails in a way, like emotionally. And then I have my old lady Cashmere, who's taking a nap on the couch right now. I would have had 4, but Baggy passed away, not last year, but the year before. So he was my black cat.
Even the animals are getting sick.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that was something I was thinking about today, was like, people are complaining about being sick a lot, but like the animals are also acting very weird. Even bugs are acting weird. Like, nothing's acting normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's strange.
Like, we've been having an ant problem, and like, I'm already grossed out by bugs in general, but like, ants are a different kind of frustration, right? Well, the ones that we have, like, we can't figure out what the source of their, like, desire is, because they're in a couple of random places in the house, and they follow a pheromone trail that just goes in circles. It's not near any food, it's not near any water, it's not near any, like, plants or anything, like, there's no sweets nearby, there's no food or anything. And they just go in circles, and they just walk in circles, and then they go back into their little anthill, and it's like, our tile is lifting and stuff. Like, I don't know, this house has got some weird vibes to it. I don't know what's going on with this house, but it is much like that place in Texas where there's just something wrong with the house itself, and there's like a weird energy. And so, like, the more weird stuff happens, the more I'm like, nah, that's the universe telling us to beat feet. Like, we're trying to, like, we need to move.
Mm-hmm.
But even if it's just like down the street, just not in this house anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have to go super far. The tile and stuff is separating. It's coming up and making this kind of like cone shape, and it's doing it in my room, like under the carpet. And I'm like, that's terrifying, because that feels like a foundation issue. And all the weird spooky stuff has been like popping up a lot. Like, I saw this, you were talking about interdimensional beings and stuff, right? And how they're light beings. I saw an opalescent figure, glittering, glistening, sparkling, however you want to describe it, in the hallway the other day while I was talking to my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And it had me so freaked out, because I've never seen that before. I've never seen like the outline of an opalescent, translucent, iridescent type thing. Like, it was just very much a light, sparkly being.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what their message was, but my cat, Cashmere, who is not a vocal cat, she does not use a lot of sounds to communicate, but this cat made the words "gam gam" come out of her house in the most unsettling, like, 80s horror film kind of way. She was just kind of like, "gam gam," and my uncle and I were like, did that just happen?
Whoa.
Like, what do you mean? And then we're looking at her, and the cat did it a second time, and we're just like, I don't know what to do with that. And he was like, well, my grandma was called Gam Gam. He's like, who do you call Gam Gam? And I was like, I've never used that phrase in my entire life. It's not for me. And I feel like he's been asking for signs from the universe for a number of things, and I'm the one who's seeing all the signs, and so I'm like pointing them out constantly, and he's just like, oh no, it's nothing. And then some crazy stuff will happen, and it's like, no, I think that message was for you. I don't know who Gam Gam is, but she's telling us something about the hallway. Like, there's something going on. And sure enough, like, several of our tiles are, like, hollow underneath. Like, I'm sure if we lift them up, we'll see, like, a hole in the floor, and I'm just not willing to go that far. Like,
does the house
I can
have a
hear
basement?
the hollowness.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh.
I don't know any way to get to a basement or even a crawl space, for that matter. So,
Well, then
I don't know. And the house is...
It ought to be built on either cement slab. I don't think they can build like wood on the ground.
I have no idea, man. All I know is the ground out here is just piled on top of some old vines.
Does he rent?
He does rent, yeah. Yeah, it's a rental company.
Good.
They're trying to say, they're trying to say that the ants are our problem, but I'm like, no, there's a foundation problem. And they're like, nope, you have an ant problem. And I'm like, I think the ants are just an extra problem. Like, I don't know that they are necessarily the problem. And so we've been looking at, like, some rentals and stuff.
Is there a lot of trees around you? Sorry.
Oh, here we
go.
We're going out for a break. You've been listening to Life in the Hologram on Revolution Radio, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. We're back. And you've been listening to Life in the Hologram on Revolution Radio. And just a reminder, we're listener supported. So get your little donations out and send it to us. Think of us like a cup of coffee from Starbucks and put that little donation in the slot. And then we need donations for our streaming service. And what is that? That's the
The Super Lucky Dragon broadcast.
Yeah. So get your donations in for that. And then don't forget to listen to Caroline's show. After this show, we have a lineup here on a Friday night. It starts with Solaris Blue Raven, then it's us, and then it's Caroline. So it's an exciting Friday night from 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time. Yeah.
Yeah,
and then, yeah. And Zoe, what's the name of your show and what time is it on?
My show is called Omnium Gatherum, and it is Thursdays from 4 to 6 EST.
Then, what are your websites? Because you do sell some different things, and do you do readings for people and things like that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. My website is missbii.net. That's MISSBII.net. And it is a work in progress, much like myself, but I have some journal entries and I have some photography up there and some artwork. And I do sell my own original design hoodies and shirts, and I have some coffee mugs and some posters. And so I have some art posters and I have some photography posters and I have some of my old modeling catalog up there. I'm pretty proud of it, so I like putting it out there. So, yeah.
And what about you, Caroline? Do you do readings?
No, not really. Every once in a while, like I don't do it anymore. Like, unless I really feel pulled to do it, I don't do it.
Oh.
No.
I haven't figured out how to charge for readings.
Well, you know,
I did for a donation.
I did do readings at one point on Skype, like but that's gone back a few years. I did do it, and I mean it's basically PayPal. Like they pay for it before, or like
Venmo, PayPal.
Yeah, like and
Cash App.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's ways to do it.
I...
Yeah, there is, and also subscriptions are a good way. You know, like if there's stuff that I want to share, but I don't want to share it with like the mass. A subscription is a good way because then the people who are subscribing want to be there, but they're not really, they're not going to be trolls, you know, they're not going to.
Yeah.
So, like, even if it's a $5 or $4.99 for the monthly subscription and they like a newsletter, like with some kind of bullet points. Does anybody even say that anymore? Yeah. Good.
Who knows?
With my presentation. But yeah, like I love that you're out there, Zoe. You know, and
Thank you.
yeah, it's really good. Like everything. But
I
as I say, I don't get the things on Facebook till like 3 days later.
Yeah, like I was saying, I noticed a lot of people see those. So like the one time I didn't post anything for 3 days, the second I did, everybody saw it. But if I post something consistently, like nobody sees anything. I never see Solaris's stuff either,
No.
or
Yeah.
yours, or a handful of my other friends. I see a lot of Madeline's stuff, but I don't see a lot of anyone else's things for some reason. And
Yeah.
yeah, and
Strange.
so there's a lot of friends that I just don't see. I don't see a lot of artists. I see a lot of stuff from people who reblog the same handful of like memes or like, historical facts or something. People who share stuff from very generic groups. I see a lot of that stuff. And so I've come to realize that I think the algorithm just responds to something that's popular by like demand more. Well, so I see a lot of stuff that's like, Marvel movie related and Disney related and stuff, but it's like, okay, but we've all seen these 1,000 times. Like, show me stuff I haven't seen. Give me something that wasn't 6 days ago.
I think when somebody posts something, I always try to like and comment because I think the comment is what brings the things in the algorithms and makes you get noticed.
Commenting and sharing, definitely.
Right. So that's why I always try to comment on everybody's post or, repost it. When I see your show come up, I like to repost it. And Caroline's and
Yeah, I try to repost everybody. Anyone that I know that has a radio show or is a musical artist or has like a gallery or something, I try to always repost it. Sometimes I'll post like a little quip at the top with it, but a lot of times people don't read those things anyway, and then they ask you the same questions in the comments, and it's like, well, if you read the post, like it's right there. But Facebook recently has had this thing where they where you share something, but it doesn't share the original context of the post. It just shares the media. And so some people will have these big, long posts that are really emotional or like very informal. And then when you reshare it, it just shows like a photograph or a link. It doesn't give you like their whole context of the whole rest of the post. And so if you don't think to click on that thing and go to the original post, you're going to miss all of the context of what's being shared. And then that ends up making it even less worthwhile for the person who posted it because nobody is reading what is being said. And I don't understand the algorithms. Like I was saying before, it's like a different level of confusion because I thought I understood the algorithm. So I was following it. I had on my Miss Bii the cat Facebook page, I had stuff that was scheduled constantly, and I was constantly having posts be scheduled for, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 in the evening, 1 in the middle of the night, just kind of like random thoughts that would get posted. I spent like 2 months just writing a bunch of random stuff to be posted at like random times just to see if it would help people engage. And it did for a little bit, but then the algorithm changed. It like evolved differently. And so then it didn't work on Facebook, but it was working on Instagram, and now it doesn't work on Instagram, and it doesn't work on TikTok anymore either, and it barely works on Twitter. And so I just post the same way on all my social media because I figure if you're not going to see it anyway, I'm not going to spend a lot of time posting a bunch of stuff. If you want to come see what I'm doing, you'll see what I'm doing by searching me up. But,
well, I think you can, because I have, Life in the Hologram page connected with an Instagram page.
Yeah, mine's connected.
It goes both places. But I think you ought to sell some of your stuff on Etsy. Etsy. Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I haven't done anything on Etsy is because you have to rent the space, and so if you have to pay for all the objects that you have up. And it's not like a lot of money, but I don't always have a consistent amount in my bank account, and so I need to sell some more stuff so that the stuff that I sell, I can use that profit to hold up an Etsy store. Because like I said, it's not super expensive, but like $5 or $6 like per item that you have. If you have 15 items, like That's
yeah.
a lot more money than you would think. And
Well, what about
it used to be like pennies, but now it's like it's
Yeah,
dollars.
it was pennies
plural.
when I did
but
it.
don't they have these TikTok stores too?
Mm-hmm.
Where you can go live on TikTok or go live on Facebook and show what you have.
Yeah, I've thought about that.
Is that not what's going to happen with streaming? It's going to be Facebook, Rumble, Twitter.
X.
I think and I think it's Twitter to me. I don't care about Elon Musk's opinion.
What about that D Live? Remember we signed up for that?
I haven't used it, but that's supposed to post on multiple platforms too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, when it comes to multiple platforms, I personally get overwhelmed. Like, if it's more than Twitch and, like, Facebook at the same time, it stresses me out because I'm like, how many people are on how many screens and who's moderating? And, you know, I always get nervous because I don't often have trolls, but, like, the few times I have, we didn't have a moderator. And so, like, the chat gets all crazy. And so
I think that
not with this radio
Live
show,
is like the Twitch.
D Live? It's like
yeah. That makes sense.
You know, the social media, I used to like be consistent with it.
It gets overwhelming because there's so many spots to keep stuff on if you're going to go that route.
It takes up too much time, you know.
It takes up so much time.
Yeah, I feel it just takes time. And I don't want...
When I first... Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, I was just saying I don't want to.
You don't want to. Yeah, it was, my mom didn't really understand it in 2020 when I was doing the stuff with Solaris and some of my other friends who were smaller celebrities, but like actual celebrity friends of mine that had like, you know, big YouTube channels. I was doing a lot of interviews on those places too. And she didn't understand, like, why are you streaming for 5 hours at a time? Like, why are you on this person's show? Like, why are you still on the computer? And, you know, you're always on your phone. And it wasn't until we got to Texas and I was doing more stuff with Solaris and I was doing stuff to promote people in town. And then I was also promoting, you know, I was streaming a lot when I first got to Texas. And so I was streaming, and then to get people's attention that I was streaming, I'd be posting on Facebook and Instagram and, you know, Twitter and Twitch and YouTube and like just all these different things. And I'm constantly tweeting stuff out and I'm constantly posting on Facebook. And I was doing all this extra stuff, and my mom was asking why so many things. And then, you know, I started my Patreon and my OnlyFans and all these other different things where I could share different avenues of my artwork. And she was just watching me one day and she goes, "You have so many platforms that you're monitoring." And I was like, and they're all different projects. Like my OF is, I do really, old style erotic art, and I can't get away with it on like Patreon and Facebook and stuff. I've gotten in a lot of trouble on other platforms for the stuff I draw sometimes, but like it's just a style that I really enjoy, but it's got its own like thing. So that's all on one website, and then Patreon, it has its up and downs, but like currently they support 2 different wars of genocide, and I don't want my followers to give their money to Patreon anymore. I don't want to give my money to Patreon. And I just don't agree with a lot of the politics. They're very left-leaning in an obscene way, where if you just have a disagreement with somebody, they kick you off the platform. And if you vote a certain way and you're public about it, they'll kick you off the platform. I don't believe in that. This is America. It's free speech. I can believe who I want and what I want.
Right.
You don't have to agree with me, but you don't have the right to tell me that I can't believe in those things, you know. And I'm a very central person. Yeah, we thought, it's not the same now, but then, you know, I have multiple Facebook pages, multiple Instagram pages, multiple everything else, you know. And so my mom was just like, "Oh my God, that's like a whole job by itself." And I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the phone all the time talking to people for hours at a time, you know, kind of being a friend counselor, but also like doing readings and stuff for people and helping some of my friends work through some like really deeply psychologically stressful things. And a lot of my friends that have kids will call me sometimes because I did a lot of like early childhood development classes when I was like toward the end of high school and just after high school. And I did a lot of stuff with psychology, relationships, and I was in a bunch of like peer-to-peer counseling groups as a kid. And so I'm really focused on those things. And so I have a few friends that will call me and we'll talk for hours about the development of the kids and like what are some things that we didn't like as as kids that as adults we can change and things like that. And people are always like, well, you should be making money doing these things. I'm like, okay, so pay me, like send me some money for you. And then they don't. And it's like, okay, well, my intention is not to make money, but it would be nice to be able to support myself doing all these things, spending all this time and energy helping all these people. And so I backed off for a while. And because of that, I missed out on whatever the update was for the algorithms. And as soon as I jumped back in, I had kind of like a lull for like a year because of all the stuff that happened last year. I was just not in a position to do a lot last year. And so I missed whatever that update was. And now I'm trying to catch up. And it's just, I don't know. I think the algorithm kind of has its own sentience and it just decides what you're going to look at today. And I think the robot that does the social media, I think it just kind of does its own thing. I think the robot said, I like this stuff, and so do a lot of people. So we're going to focus on this one thing because everybody likes it. And then the rest of us are like, what about me though? And the computer is just like, nah, you don't have enough followers or you don't have enough engagement. And that's why I tell people liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, all of that stuff really does help. A lot of people don't understand and they think it's silly, but it's like when YouTubers say like, comment, subscribe, that's because that's how they get their money. That's how they know that they're doing well. And, if you're trying to support somebody and it's free and all you have to do is click subscribe, why not? You know what I mean? If you like their content and what they're doing, just subscribe. You can turn off notifications if you don't want to get emails. You know what I mean? But
I'm going to make you laugh. Now I'll do a little video with my Emmett. He's 7. And then he'll go, like, comment, and subscribe. I go, oh my God.
That's so cute.
To many of these shows.
It's because we don't watch TV anymore. We watch YouTube. And so everybody says like, comment, subscribe.
Right.
And instead of, stay tuned for the following message or like, see you next week on blah, blah, blah show. And yeah, I think it's kind of funny. Like that's just kind of where the world is going is you have to subscribe to everybody in order to see anything.
And subscribe.
Yeah.
That's so cute though. My goddaughter is the same way. She's like, if you ever let me help you get famous, I'll be the one to tell everybody to like and comment. And I'm like, okay. She's like, oh.
Did you see that about Soros buying up all the radio?
I thought he died.
No.
Did he die?
I thought
George
he did.
Soros? I don't think he's dead. I think that guy is just living on, I don't know, living on borrowed time, that's for sure.
I don't know.
Dude is a damn tortoise. Like, he's just slowing down, but not stopping. Yeah, him buying up the radio is not surprising, but it is disappointing. Right. Well, like, man, haven't you bought up enough of all the cool stuff? Like, can you just
stop?
Can you just not? Yeah, can you just cease?
Well, there's a couple of, it was Talk Radio, and I think it's GB News. They have a online presence, but they're also like on the television. So they have like a news, the Talk Radio, they're no longer going to be using off-cam, which is the licensing here. This is, you're supposed to follow the rules. So they're moving away from off-cam and going more online, which I thought was really interesting. So if George Soros is buying up radio, it has to do with it's off-cam here. Don't know what it's called in the States. I used to know, like, the regulators, what are they called? Anyway,
the FDC?
FDC, that's it. Yeah, the regulators do the radio, like, you have to always give, like, a balanced, like, they have the rules. So I think because the cost of that licensing, because it's really high, people are moving away. And if he's taken over it, it'll mean, like, if you think people are being shut up right now, wait. You know, there won't be anybody on those platforms that have an alternative view. It'll just be one view. So I don't know if that like I saw a news article, but I don't know if it went through. I don't know, like.
Yeah, and our view is pretty alternative.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've had a few people be like, "Do you know that's a conservative radio station?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, Revolution Radio, like it's kind of
Freedom.
self-explanatory." And people are like, "Well, how do you feel about that?" And I was like, "I have a lot of different opinions on some things compared to some folks, but again, this is America, and our First Amendment rights are free speech. So if that's how they want to, share their stories, you would, yeah." The idea is there.
We have a lot of different hosts over here that we talk about a lot of different things.
I was going to say, there's a lot of topics that get covered on this platform, and that's why I think Revolution Radio is absolutely fantastic. It's because they do allow a lot of different opinions. They do allow people to express themselves in multiple facets, and I'm really glad that they have this program that they're doing with the what is it, Super Lucky Dragon Broadcasting. Yeah, that's the one. It needs like an anagram.
Yeah, I think it's great. I really do.
I think it's really cool that. Yeah, right. Just have a little sign up somewhere. But I think it's great that they're able to.
When you do the donation for the Lucky Dragon Broadcasting Network, put that in on your donation in a comment somewhere that it's for the Lucky Dragon Broadcasting Network, because there's two, there's one for Revolution Radio and one for that platform.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like being a listener endorsed radio station, like, we're listener supported. So I think that that's really important too, is because that's, some people will look at that funny, but it's like, so is everyone else. Anyone that does YouTube or Twitch or whatever, that's your viewers supported, listener and viewer is the same. It's the same audience. And so we really appreciate having people that want to support that stuff. And I think it's really cool that it is listener supported. So you can't just sit there and tell people what they can and can't hear, because the listeners are the ones really that determine what happens. And so,
and the archives are free. And
that's right.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of places, the archives, you got to subscribe to that, and it's like a whole different price. So for us having free archives, I think that's incredible too, because that allows a lot of freedom for people that I know that don't necessarily want to subscribe to anything, but they want to be able to check out some different shows. Like I have a friend that plays, he calls it Revolution Roulette, where he just goes on and he just clicks a random show and a date that they have, and he just listens to different stuff on the station, because he was like, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, what kind of people are we going to listen to today? And I think that's really cool, because ever since I've been sharing it, since I was starting with Solaris's shows, people are like, oh, how do I listen? And I'm like, you can go here's the archives, and a lot of people are discovering different folks on there that they want to support, and I think that's
there's so many ways to listen to Revolution Radio, though. I mean, you don't really have to go on to their site. There's TalkStream,
right?
You can go on there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
You can go on to TuneIn app, all kinds of different places you can go to listen to the show. So it's all over the place.
There were so many different places. That's fantastic. So
absolutely, it's all over.
I'm gonna have to start linking more stuff for people, because I know in some parts of the country you can actually tune into this on the radio station.
Yeah.
Because I've actually heard a couple of folks like on the radio, especially on the East Coast. You can hear a lot more like through Pennsylvania and like Indiana. Yeah. And I was listening to some of it when I was driving out there in 2020, because I was like, oh, snap, Revolution Radio, like Freedom Slips, like what? And it was really cool to be able to hear some of the, I don't remember who it was exactly. There was a lady I was listening to, and there was an older gentleman who was talking about like art history for one particular artist. I can't remember the guy's name. It was a French artist. But he was talking about how the guy was a painter during the French Revolution, and so there was a lot of like historical paintings and stuff that are not as recognized by people. And I wish I could remember who it was.
How did you get
anyway?
Into
art?
I
was listening to him on the radio. Me, I was kind of born into it. My dad is an artist, and I found out that my grandmother on my mom's side is an artist, and a lot of the women on my mom's side of the family are painters. Like they just like to paint, and they have like an inherent love and appreciation for like nature. And so a lot of us have this like very fairy core vibe. We have very, very old school fairy tale kind of vibes. And on my dad's side, my grandma is a musician, and my uncle is also fairly talented as a kid. He did a lot of art stuff. And so we had a lot of people, I guess, cousins and stuff that I've never met that were also like painters and illustrators and musicians. And so it's just kind of always been there. But I've always liked being able to draw people. And so I've just evolved around mostly portraits. But I got into like diving into art, like looking at comic books and graphic novels and dissecting different art, mostly from the 70s and 80s, from like old sci-fi and stuff. And there's some classical painters, like Van Gogh is one of my favorites, just because I like his use of color and patterns, because I don't do that as often. And a lot of my favorite artists were like 70s and 80s and early 90s, like sci-fi artists. Like they did sci-fi fantasy or like pinup, or really liked pinup. So I got really into like Norman Rockwell and Frank Frazetta and Massimiliano Frazzato and a few other people like that. The lady that does Olivia pinups. I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Or I think maybe her name is Olivia actually. But she does like the Betty Page pinups and stuff like that. And they're all like, I think they're all oil painting, or some of them are watercolor maybe, but she does some really incredible art. And I really like being able to showcase like the sort of classy, intimate parts of life. Not necessarily like, inherently lingerie intimate, but like just intimacies of like the closeness of people, and the intimacy of being at home and like taking care of your plants, or like just going outside and speaking to the trees. Like I like having fantasy, whimsical characters that can go out and have these adventures sort of just in their backyard. And so just kind of the thought of fairy tales and stuff really got me interested in art and like storytelling. So yeah.
That was what I was going to ask you when we heard the music. It was, is there a lot of trees around you, Zoe?
So they're in pockets. There probably were many, many more like a few years ago, but they're not as much because of the development of the houses. But we have like, not like tall trees, but there are a lot of trees. There's like 6 to 8 foot like trees just about everywhere. We have a lot of little gullies and like little pockets of forests, and there's some like woodlands and stuff over here that have like, there's like a bird sanctuary. And so there's a bunch of cars coming, so you might hear some revving in the background. I think there's a car show down the street. But there's like these woodlands that are like bird sanctuaries for like these big raptors. And I've been seeing like spotted falcons and like eagles and like red-tailed hawks and stuff, which are all my favorite birds. There's a great horned owl that just kicks it in this tree out behind our house. So I go out and hoot at him occasionally. And we have a lot of robins and like larkspurs and like blue jays. There's so many blue jays here. And so there's a lot of like small brushes that they can hide in. And on the other side of the road, there's some more trees that are a little bit taller, like maybe 30-foot trees. And those tend to have a lot of the eagle nests and stuff in them. So there are quite a bit of trees, but it's also very flat here too. It's really weird. Like you'll just have these little hills of nothing, and then like a pocket of forest, and then like hills of nothing, and then like you'll have like a big building, and then like another pocket of forest. You'll have like a little tiny like wetlands area, and so it's very sparse. But I'm told just outside of Des Moines there's actually more trees and a little bit more forests. We live near Raccoon River, I think is what it's called, or Raccoon Creek. And that's kind of a foresty wetland area that's like a few miles south or east, I think. I don't know where the mountains are, so I don't know what direction anything's in, because I'm from Colorado and everything is either to the mountains or away from the mountains. And out here, I have no idea what direction anything is in. I know the sun is always out this direction, so I think that's east. but I'm
Not
not
if it's
sure.
at night, it's west.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that's west this way, which means
The sun comes up
yeah.
in the
So
east
the
and goes
river
down in
and the
the
forest
west.
is kind of south from here.
South.
It's that direction.
I wondered about the bedroom and the tiles pushing up, if it could have been a root. If it was a root.
That's what I first thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no trees like big enough. They're not close enough to the house, I don't think, to be roots. Although, I mean, it could be. Like I said, there's there's like an 8-foot spruce tree out here that's kind of, he just chilling. And then there's like, I don't know, it's a naked tree right now, so I'm not sure what kind it is, but it has little green, like round green leaves, much like an aspen, but it's not, it's the other one that's not like an aspen, that's like kind of similar.
Yeah, but it could be those ants.
It could be.
That's what I think. I think it's just a giant anthill or 7.
Put some salt down.
We put salt. We put baking soda. My dad said cinnamon helps.
Diatomaceous earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do need to get some of that. That is the one thing I keep thinking about.
And not
write that down, actually.
And not only diatomaceous earth, you can take it yourself too. It helps get rid of parasites.
Yeah, I heard about that recently. I don't remember who I heard it from, but yeah, someone was like, yeah, you can just take a little bit yourself in like a capsule form, and it helps like clean out your system and.
Or just take a little, like
water,
a half a teaspoon of water and drink it on an empty stomach.
Like a tea.
Mhm. So, when I was on Zoe's show a few weeks back, she did tarot cards.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder, do you have them with you?
I do. I pulled a couple earlier while we were talking of the Starseed Oracle deck. And I also have my Dream Oracle and my regular tarot. So I didn't know if you wanted me to pull one or the other or...
Oh, who are you pulling the cards for?
Kind of just a collective, like, what is the energy that I've been feeling. Like, the first one I got felt like it was a collective for people in general, and it says, surrender to sweetness, Venus energy, pleasure, joy, make love to life. And it's got this sort of whimsical prayer garden vibe to it. And
that's cute.
It is very cute.
Yeah, and it talks a lot about just enjoying pleasure and diving into the things that feel good, like go for a swim or go for a walk or take a nice hot bath or make yourself some tea. And then the other one I pulled, it was funny because they came out at the same time, but one says empathic starseed and the other says weight of the world. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I said at least one of those in conversation earlier. So it just felt like it was a surrendering confirmation of like, yep, that's the thing that happened. And
didn't my card say the same thing too? Well, no, it said I'm smart, I'm open to learning something new, and I'm organized.
I like that because the weight of the world one, it says setting boundaries, let things go. It's not yours to carry. And so it was kind of like I'm in a better place. I'm smart. I'm caring. I love myself. I'm going to take care of myself. And that was kind of the vibe I was getting. And it looks kind of like she's just sort of swimming in like a nice.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Sort of a nice, calm
that's
energy.
Cute.
Very cute.
Yeah. Oh, where to go there? And then the other one says empathic starseed, energetic sovereignty in absorbing what's not yours, or absorbing what's not yours, like those coming together is kind of saying like, let go of the things that don't suit you and kind of like, don't take the things that aren't yours with you. It's not your weight to carry is kind of the vibe I got. So the reading to me is, surrender to good things and pamper treat yourself. And, say no to the things that don't agree with you or don't align with you and set those boundaries and just be able to lay back in the water and just kind of float. It's okay to just float sometimes. Just like it's okay to rest. It's okay to rest your mind and just think. It's okay to just be. All of these just look like it's a message of just be, just exist. Just take a deep breath and know that it's going to be okay. Like in this moment, everything is going to be okay. And we can put the stresses on the shelves for a minute, go take a nice warm bath, make some tea, eat some cake, do something nice for yourself, and then don't punish yourself for doing that nice thing. Just say, okay, self, this is what we deserve, something nice.
I'd like to eat some cake.
I know, right? Actually thinking about it, I'm like, dang, I would like some cake.
What kind
I
of
love
cake?
cake.
What kind of cake?
I
like
bought
red
the
velvet
kids
cake.
chocolate donuts today and soft pretzels.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, that's so good. Talk about indulging in pleasure, man. I am such a snacky, foodie person. I love snack foods. And I like things that can balance out sweet and savory.
Oh,
Like,
I like the sour sweet.
ooh, yes.
Yeah. Some of those, like, I don't know what the candy, some kind of candy, and it's the sour and the sweet.
That's a sweet sour candy I used to eat as a kid. They were called like Shockers, and they were like violently sour. But as soon as you got past the sour and bit into it, it was like crunchy. They have those too, yeah. But these were like literally like violently sour sweet candies, and it was much like Airheads, but it was kind of made like a sweet tart. But they were like the size of a quarter, or like a 50-cent piece, I'd say. And man, those things would turn my face inside out. Being a kid was great because you would just eat weird candy and your face would hurt and your eyeballs would roll in the back of your head and you think you're turning inside out and steam's coming out your ears and you're like, all right, give me another one.
So cool. Yep. I know big gallstoppers, we used to call them.
Oh yeah, gobstoppers, everlasting gobstoppers.
Yeah.
Gigantic. Oh my gosh, I miss those. I miss candy from the 90s and the early 2000s. Like, we just had
Well, you could
really
probably
good
find a candy shop, and there's a couple candy shops around here that's loaded with candy.
That's true. I haven't really explored Des Moines yet. I don't really get to go anywhere, and like when we do, the weather is kind of phooey, so we get a lot of like really overcast, rainy, windy stuff, and so nobody wants to go out in the rain and the wind because the wind is like 40, 50 miles an hour out here. And
that's
so
the
like,
winds
that stuff
rolling
takes you
across
right off
the plain.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was going to be so windy out here. And so this winter was really scary because it was really tame, actually. So I'm not complaining. Those of you who are in the area, I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I was not prepared. And it's been a very mild winter. We got like an entire year's worth of snow in like 2 weeks, and then it melted, and it's just been gone ever since. And like it'll snow a little bit, but it won't.
Strange.
Stick.
It's strange.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
also
here. It's like spring.
Yeah, it's been like a early summer here. Like they skipped spring altogether in some ways, and it was like 70 or 80 degrees the other day. And we were like, yes, sun. And then the sun set and it was like 30 degrees. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cold. Like, it's wet like and it's desert, humid. And
yeah, that's the way it used to be in Sedona. It was really hot during the day, and then at night it'd cool off.
Yep.
See, but for the desert, that makes sense. I could handle that if that was the desert. But it's like the humidity here makes things so much colder. Much like when I was in Oregon, it's just so much more humid, and so it gets really cold. Like, the cold bites you a little bit harder. And that's Gigi singing in the hallway. Sorry.
Oh, she's cute.
I think she just likes the sound of her own voice, because she'll just get up and go down there and start singing songs. But yeah, the wind out here, though, that stuff will take you right off your feet and carry you down the street. It'll just... Like, I was walking to the car the other day, and I thought it was going to take me all the way down to the mailboxes. Like, it swooped me right up. My feet left the ground,
a lot of
and
wind.
I was like, let's go. I was like, I don't want to be outside. Let's get out there.
Yeah, we've had crazy winds.
This is tame.
Yeah, crazy winds. Crazy
weather.
You know,
if they just stop messing with the weather and let the planet do its own thing, and they stop trying to artificially mess around with the weather, I'm sure it would be much nicer for everybody.
Yeah,
the more all these different companies try to... Yeah, I saw your post about that the other day, and I brought it up to my dad, and he was like, yeah, remember how people said we were crazy for talking about chemtrails? Now all of a sudden it's normal to point them out? He's like, I don't understand. And I'm like, welcome to my world, Dad. Like, everyone's just waking up.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. See, a little too late.
And then
I'm like, well...
pay attention to all the people that get sick. The ones that were out when they did the chemtrails.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't go outside a lot anymore, which is kind of funny, but also kind of depressing. But from not going out as much, I don't get sick. I'm not outside and I come home and I feel fine.
Yeah.
But when I'm outside for long periods of time or even frequently, like I feel terrible. I get bad migraines. I get really sneaky. I just feel icky, like melancholic almost. And so, yeah, I've just stopped going outside for the most part because if I see planes, I'm like, no, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. I'll go outside when it looks clear, when I can't hear any planes or anything.
We're going to
But,
have to get Russ Tanner back on the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Yeah. He's really good.
He
I follow
talks.
him on Substack. Like, he's been posting regular. Well, he does on Facebook too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he talks about all the. Well, he watches all the chemtrails.
Oh, he's
He gives-
affected by it. Like,
Yeah.
he gets sick.
We
Inflammation.
probably all do.
Yeah. Pretty sure. Yeah. So, Zoe, who do you have on your
Yeah.
show next week?
Ooh, next week, I believe that is going to be the 14th. Is that correct? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a local artist from Austin, Texas. She's a musician. Her name is Pearl Z, and she calls herself the angry black girl of rock music. And she's got some real feisty energy, and she wants to bring the fight to everybody. She wants you to be part of it, and she just wants to share some of her feelings about everything. And she's really incredible. She has a absolutely stunning voice. Like, she is an absolute badass. And I think she's like 26 or 27.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been absolutely kicking butt in Austin for the last couple of years. And I think she's actually an Austin local. But I wanted to get her on before South by Southwest so that I can maybe help promote her and get some more people to go see her show. So if you're going to be in Texas for South by Southwest, you should look for Pearl Z, because she's got a fantastic band and her music is always really engaging and she can really get the crowd moving, which I can't say for a lot of other artists that I've seen coming up. But she has a really interesting way with her lyrics and the way that she has a very unique sound, and she kind of reminds me of Joan Jett, actually.
Oh.
Just like big girl boss power.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Tina, what is her name?
Turner.
Tina Turner, yeah. It's like, I can see her in my mind. Yeah, she has kind of a like Tina Turner like strength in her voice, and so she can really carry out like the way that she sings, like just it hits you with a deep energy, and it makes you just feel really connected. I don't know. I'm very excited to have her on. She's got a really cool resume, and she's done a lot of work for different people. I think she's like a teacher. She works with kids. I think she's a music teacher. And so I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about her on a personal level and have her on. So yeah, so Pearl Z, that's who's going to be on next week. And if you're in Texas, you should go check her out. She's absolutely fantastic. She's super sweet too, very personable, despite her stage personality being a little bit more feisty. She's a very sweet, very friendly, very, very humble person.
And what's the name of your show again?
My name of my show is Omnium Gatherum, subtitled A Kaleidoscope of Discussion.
I love it.
Yeah, it means a chaotic collection of people or things. And I think that that's perfect, because that's kind of very perfectly describing all of the things in my life. I like to have different kinds of classifications and conversations with people. And so this week we had my friend Byron Gray, who's a magician, more of a classy storytelling magician, and a little bit more, what's the word? What do you call it when it's kind of like a private small theater kind of show? Cabaret. He's got kind of cabaret vibe. And then last week was my friend Draco Alexander, who is also a magician, but he's also a mentalist. And so his take on things is a little bit more psychological, as opposed to Byron, who, while being a very psychologically driven character, his whole thing is more about the importance of mystery and the importance of wonder. And so it was really cool to have both of them talk about like their different perspectives on magic and stuff. So And then, of course, Caroline, you were on our show, and we had a really wonderful show with you, and that was the second week. And the first week, I had my friend Aaron Lacombe, who's a country artist out of Texas, and I had Solaris on the second hour. So if you want to listen to those, there's only 5 episodes right now, so you can catch up real quick.
I had a lot of fun.
Even Gigi said,
And next week we have David Morgan.
Yeah, he has a YouTube channel that is named Alan Spring. He's a Welshman, and I've been talking to him for actually about 6 months now, because I was interested in the information that he was putting together. So yeah, he's going to come on and he's going to talk about some very cool stuff. Yeah.
Nice. Super exciting.
Yeah.
I pulled a couple extra cards for you, Caroline. I pulled from the Shaman Oracle deck, and the first one I got, it's called Fortune's Wheel, and the number is 23, and it says luck and right timing, and it's like it looks kind of like a golden pocket watch to me.
That's a pretty card.
Yeah, I need to put my glasses on to see that. Let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll send you pictures of these too. And then the other one I pulled was because you brought up mirrors earlier, so I thought it was very interesting. But the number is 58, and it's called Vanishing Mirror. It says ego sublimation. And I think the way that the mirror is kind of exploding almost, and got like clouds and stuff coming around it.
She disappeared.
I know, these cameras are so funny. Like, they work sometimes and not other times.
I love it. But yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send you pictures. But yeah, so collectively, if somebody needs to hear it, you've got some good timing coming up, and something really neat's going to happen. But also, like, you may have an ego death, so it's okay if things are rapidly changing. Just embrace it.
Ego death. Whoa.
Maybe
ego death, man.
Maybe you'll win the lottery.
Just another kind of death.
There you go. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, if somebody does win the lottery, like, please just tell me. Just tell me that you did and it changed your life, and I'll know. I'll know it was from today.
Yeah.
You talk about enjoying pleasurable things and treating yourself, man. If you win the lottery, you better take good care of yourself. Go get a fancy bubble bath. Go rent a hotel room and spoil yourself. Or buy a house, I don't know.
600 and some million.
Can.
Is that how much it is, Madeline?
Yeah. But I mean, you win 600 and some million, and you probably only get 300 and some million. But what do they do with that lottery money?
What do they do with any of our tax money? It's clearly not going to anything we think we're paying.
Yeah, right.
Like, I was so mad about the war in Gaza, and where I find out that the money is going and the drone strikes and stuff. I was like, I'm not filing taxes this year. If the IRS knows how much I owe, like, why do I have to jump through hoops to tell you how much you need to give me back? If you already know, just give me the money back. But I know I didn't make a whole lot last year, because most of last year I was unemployed. So, like, what am I paying for?
If you reach into it, you don't have to pay taxes.
That's true. I have been looking into that. It's very confusing, and there's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, but I'm starting to understand a little bit more how to do that sort of like relinquishing identity, or relinquishing the Social Security, like, stranglehold that they've got. It's interesting. I talked about it with a little bit. Well, I didn't talk about it. He talked about it. But Jonathan asked me on him and Rick's show, and then later on his show, where we kind of dove into it. He was explaining kind of his perspective on learning how to do that, and how to separate, and things that he thinks he wants to do with the money that he will hopefully get after the whole thing is said and done. And I've been looking into it a little bit more, because
there's like $100 million in your name on your birth certificate.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that that's a thing that is in fact not part of the Matrix. Like, that's a real, I mean, it is, it's all part of the Matrix, obviously, but like, that's a thing people don't want to talk about because they're so convinced it isn't real. And then you meet someone who's like, yeah, no, I did this. It worked for me. This is how I got all of the things I have. This is how I bought my RV and my land and my that. And it's like, so if real people are saying those things, then I feel more apt to trust that something else can happen, but I need to find a lawyer to help me kind of go through it, because there's some ways
Well,
that
it's
the
not a
phrases of
regular.
things.
No, it's not a regular lawyer.
Mm-mm.
No,
Right,
no, no,
but
no.
the
Forget
sheriff.
about a regular
Okay.
lawyer. Forget about it.
a financial wizard.
Well,
what I
not even
need.
a financial wizard. It has to be connected with this particular way of thinking. It's common law.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely need to look into it some more. Oh, jeez. Google is tapping in. I don't like that. Mind your business, Miss Robot.
Where did that come from? My phone or your phone?
I'm
Maybe
not
my
sure.
watch.
It definitely wasn't mine.
It
Was it
came
your
on my watch.
The
Wow.
watch said, "Listen here, ladies."
Yeah. Thinking as it is, a key concept in accessing this pattern of invalid arguments so common that it's been given a name, affirming the method was not brother. The watch is listening.
The
watch is
listening.
just like, listen here, you. I'm spying. I'm
Ears
spying, and
eyes
I'm not even
everywhere.
hiding
I
it.
gotta turn off this microphone.
Wow.
After
So
your
funny.
social security number and your placenta is created
What?
as a straw man, they create a trust account with trustees that make money. But the trust account, you never made money. It's not 100 million. That's what you start with. It's 14 billion is what
Oh my
my
gosh.
CUSPID number says. My QSIP number says.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
It's sitting there waiting for us to get in there. So
You know,
that's what we have to learn how to do. DJ knows how to do it.
Has DJ had any luck? Did she get her money?
Some, yeah.
Yeah. I think she told us that, right? She did.
Yeah.
That one when she was on the show.
Yeah, I would be happy to just have some money at this
Just
point. It
ask-
doesn't have to be
ask-
all of it at once, but
Ask Alexa. She knows.
yeah, right? Alexa, play Despacito. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't have Alexa.
There's some things on some groups on Telegram that delve into it and have classes and so on and so forth. I can send you the links.
I've got a couple of books
that would be great.
as well.
Yeah.
That's on the common law, natural law. And it kind of breaks it down for you. There's a place there's a place to kind of get your name off it, and like it kind of takes all the capitals off your name. Like I put my name on it. There's a place here.
And the little red number on your birth certificate, that's what identifies you on the stock exchange.
Holy crap.
What? Okay, wow, that's...
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know. I hate how
the
bizarre
truth.
that is.
I don't have a little red number on my birth certificate.
So is it just a United
probably
States
because
thing?
it's here, yeah. But
And then the red number on your Social Security card is your account for the Treasury. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to look into that more, because give me my money.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
Did any of you watch the state of the address that Biden
Oh, brother,
did you?
I started watching some of it, but I couldn't finish it. It didn't feel sincere. None of it felt sincere at all for a long time. But I don't know, something about it just... He's basically saying things that go against everything that he has said and done as a president, and all of a sudden he's like for these things that he was against, and like his personal policies are not the same as his cabinet policies, and I don't know, it was just really strange to me. What did you take from the State of the Union?
Strange
Or
to
did
all
you?
of us.
Yeah,
Any,
that's fair. That's fair. It's funny you bring that up because my mom mentioned it, and I actually was gonna watch it after the show because I was curious because I was reading the transcript, and it was just very confusing because like some of it just straight up didn't make sense because I was like, this definitely Biden had nothing to do with this speech. He did not write this at all, and that's
Well, I don't think any
clear.
of them write their speeches.
That's fair, but you can just tell that Biden definitely didn't. They had someone write it and just said, "Don't ask questions, just read verbatim."
I think they're talking in his ear too.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. They gotta be.
Oh,
also, I'm convinced that the person that was speaking is actually not Biden, and it's one of the many actors that just wears a rubber face because he just looked weird, and he was too coherent for somebody who I just saw like a week ago who couldn't put one sentence together. Yeah, and so I don't know. It's all very strange, and
it's all strange. It's like we're living in a strange movie.
You ever seen that movie Idiocracy?
No.
One of my favorites. Oh my gosh, you should watch Idiocracy because it's almost a documentary, and it's supposed to be a joke. It's supposed to be a giant irony, but it is it is very accurate.
I think we're coming to the end of the show.
Oh, snap, the
end.
So
thank you, Zoe, for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yes.
And thank you, listeners,
for
listening
me.
to Life in the Hologram on Revolution Radio. Come back next week at 7 p.m. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Revolution